Story I read.
So what was your reaction to Cogonada's script?
I had from first read. I was just incredibly moved by it, but gently moved by it. It's the kind of story for me that has built in emotional weight and psychological consequence from the moment I read it to today. We find ourselves 3 days short of finishing the film, and it just gets better and it just gets richer, and I just feel it more and more. But first read, I was very moved by it. But it's not. He as a filmmaker is such a subtle and gentle filmmaker. Just from watching his work on Columbus, and then reading the script, it's not. There are no moments per se. It doesn't. You can't imagine the orchestra attempting to manipulate the audience with having music swell. It's all very grounded in this particular space, and space is something that's obviously very important to Cogonada as an artist and as a filmmaker, and what happens within spaces and what happens in silence, and the physical interaction between people and people's relationships, particularly in relation to Columbus, people's relationships to space and to form and to shape and architecture. So all those things meant when I read it, it wasn't like I didn't cry when I read it, and that's purely on me, of course. I didn't put the script down because I felt so much, but it was just this kind of building sense of emotional connection that I had to the material. And I just found it, and still find it it's this bizarre paradox where it seems very simple on first read, but it becomes over time and overdoing the film here incredibly complicated, and I think his stuff asks, because it's not designed to have moments, and because you're not exactly clear what's being felt at any given time, it feels to me, and maybe it always does, but it feels to me more in this than maybe anything I've ever done, that it asks you to bring a lot of your own experience or your own concerns or your own fears or curiosities or wonders and all that stuff to it.
Perfect. If you can talk about Cogonada a little bit more, you mentioned that he's really aware of space and
Yeah.
how he directs in his aesthetic. So just tell us more about his approach, his style.
It's very simple, man. He's very simple. It's there's kind of that, that. And I've had different versions of a similar thing, and the similar thing being, with great directors, some of them you see the work more, and some of them there's a little kind of alchemy that exists within them, and there's a relationship that they have to the material that's constantly moving through them, that they're not expressing or articulating to you all the time, and that's fine. And so he wrote this script, and I feel like a lot of his direction, I feel like a lot of Cogonada's thoughts and philosophies and concerns and a lot of his hopes are within the pages of the script that he wrote. So he's very gentle. He's very gentle, as is, as was Columbus, was kind of filled with emotion, but in a very gentle way, and was filled with space and had a kindness. Columbus had a kindness and a compassion to it, I felt, as a film, that I feel this film has, and that I feel Cogonada has as a man and as a filmmaker. So yeah, he's his aesthetic is very, very particular. He is a cinephile. He's incredibly learned when it comes to the art of cinema and the history of cinema. I mean, you probably know he's an essayist, and he has a website where he comments on various filmmakers and certain kind of visual tropes, or certain aesthetic reliances that certain filmmakers return back to, symbolism and imagery in film, and the power of symbolism and the power of imagery, and how space is a language and how structure has a language, and that there is no such thing as unrelatedness. So he's really, he's been an absolute joy to work with, man, from day one. I have loved this experience. This has been, like, in 20 years of doing this racket, this has been one of the most special experiences I've had, easily. And there's many reasons why that's been the case, but they were all born of what Cogonada, based on the short story, of course, and having been provoked by the short story, what he willed into the world,
So tell us, like, your first reaction when you read the script. What went through your mind? Well, I had lunch with Kogonada, and he told me he finished this next script and he was going to start making his next movie. And he wanted to send it to me to like get my thoughts. He didn't tell me there was like a role that he wanted me to play or anything. He just said he wanted me to read it, and literally, I don't like to read. I don't know if that's a good thing to admit, but I'm just not a very good reader, and I don't really like reading that much. And I always kind of dread when I get a new script because it's like, oh no, I have to read. But when the second I got the ding on my computer that he'd sent me the script, I stopped what I was doing and read it all in one sitting, which is also a very rare thing for me. And I was just a bunch of things. I was completely amazed by him again, because I'd worked with him on Columbus, and that script was so much its own thing and so beautiful and so quiet. And this script is so different than that, the world that he created, but you still feel that like extreme, unique print of him as a filmmaker and as a voice and writer and human. So I was just amazed. I was moved. I was immediately thinking about all these different kind of questions that the movie presents, and I also was obsessed with the idea of playing Ada, and then I sent him a huge email saying, let me play her.
So, what themes do you think are being explored here? What do you think he's going for?
There are things that I personally felt and was moved by when I first read the script, but I just know that I'm going to watch this movie whenever it comes out, probably watch it a handful of times, and I'll notice things or themes or things that he's putting in there that are some sort of symbolic or some question or open to interpretation that I don't even notice now. So I'm excited for that. I think the things that I initially felt when I read the script were the main thing, and I think it's because of the relationship between Ada and Yang too, is like what it means to be a human. And that whole thing, like when we talk about people and we talk about them being grounded, or we use the word human, and like, oh, that's such a human thing, or you know what I mean, and or human emotion, but who knows what's going to happen in the future, and just that question or possibility that there could be some other form of person or life person or man-made person that can connect to us in those same ways, or I don't even know. I'm like still questioning things as I'm reading and getting into the scenes for each day. I don't really have any answers. I think it's just bringing up a lot of questions inside of me, this movie. Cool. Can I talk more about Kogonada and how much I love him?
Absolutely, of course.
I don't know. I just want to talk about him all day long. Yeah.
It is very calm set. I mean, noticeably.
Yeah, his vibe is just pure creative and collaborative and peaceful. I literally love him, and I want to be in anything he ever makes, because it's so fulfilling to have that creative and collaborative, trusting relationship and environment, and something that you don't get a lot. And as a director that writes and directs and is so much the leader in something, their energy kind of transforms what the whole experience is like. And with Kogonada, it's such a pure, fulfilling, incredible experience. Yeah.
動かなくなった AI ロボットヤン。彼のメモリには家族が知らなかったある秘密が残されていた。
I wish I had a real memory. Did you want to be human?
That's such a human thing to ask, isn't it?
愛おしい記憶をたどる切なく美しい物語。アフターヤン。